Chapter 1, The Rainy Arrival. The rain had been steady all afternoon, the kind that didn't crash or howl but insisted, thousands of fine needles sewing the city into a soft, gray hush. By early evening, the streets around the harborside Royale were glossy black, slick as onyx under the street lamps. Cars hissed past, umbrellas bobbed like dark mushrooms, and the hotel's brass-canopied entrance glowed with the steady warmth of money. Maya Williams stepped out of a rideshare at the curb and paused for a second beneath the canopy, letting the doorman's offered umbrella drip off to the side rather than take it. She wanted to feel the place before she entered. Wanted to taste the atmosphere like a chef checking the heat before a sear. Jeans. White sneakers. Soft black hoodie pulled up over a braided bun. No jewelry besides a slim watch. Nothing about her clothes said owner, which was exactly the point. The doorman, grizzled and gracious in a way that can't be taught, tilted his cap and opened the glass door with a seasoned sweep. Maya gave him a small nod in thanks, then crossed the threshold into a world she technically built, tile by tile, policy by policy, payroll by payroll, yet rarely saw without the polishing lens that appeared whenever people knew who she was. The lobby opened like a theater set. Marble floors the color of champagne, a chandelier that, in the wrong hands, would have been ostentatious but here felt like a cluster of fallen stars, velvet chairs in a deep green that made you want to lengthen your spine when you sat. The rain tamped down the usual bustle, and the evening crowd arrived in polite waves, a couple arguing softly about opera tickets, a family shepherding a toddler with an orange balloon, a pair of suits murmuring into their phones. Somewhere, a pianist was tracing a slow, conversational melody, nothing flashy, but attentive, as if listening for who might walk by. Maya slipped the hood down and took a breath. She'd done surprise inspections before, of course. Any CEO who claimed to understand their customer journey without ever being a customer was either naive or lying. But tonight wasn't only about checklists. It was about feel, about the temperature of welcome, about the invisible currents between staff and guest. You can hang 100 framed training certificates in back of house, she thought, but the real certificate is how a person feels the moment they are seen. She angled toward the front desk, choosing the line to the left where two associates were working beneath discreet brass nameplates. Her sneakers squeaked on the marble, barely, but enough that she noticed. The kind of detail she'd jot down later for the ops team, and trance mats need better grip on rainy nights. A couple stepped aside to give her space, and she thanked them with a smile. The woman smiled back. The man glanced down at Maya's hoodie and then passed her toward the revolving doors, as if he was deciding whether she belonged. People always think their micro-expressions are invisible. They never are. From this distance, she could read the whiteboard behind the desk where managers rotated daily notes: high occupancy tonight, late arrivals from cancelled flights, VIP in 1903, confidential, chef testing new scallop appetizer, ask for feedback. The scallop line snagged her. She made a mental note to swing by the lounge later and ask for a tasting as a regular guest would, no theatrical reveal, no drama. She wanted to see how the system handled curiosity. Next, please, came a voice from the left terminal, brisk and clipped. Maya stepped forward. The associate, mid-20s, neat bun, a tie knotted an inch too tight, looked up and then, in the smallest flicker, looked down. The eyes did the math people thought she didn't notice: hoodie, sneakers, no luggage, rain frizz at the hairline, skin tone filed into a drawer of assumptions. When the associate looked up again, her professional smile had cooled 2 degrees. "Good evening," Maya said, settling her palms on the counter's smooth edge. "I'd like to ask about a room for tonight." "Are you aware of our rates?" the associate asked, not unkindly, but with that careful voice used for explaining menu prices to someone holding a coupon. Her name tag read L. Pierce. Lauren, maybe. We are a 5-star property. So I've heard, Maya said lightly. What's your best available? The associate's lips held their smile, but her fingers didn't move to the keyboard. We have a limited number of rooms this evening. For walk-ins, our City View Deluxe starts at, she paused, eyes flicking over Maya's hoodie as if it were a ledger of unpaid bills, $950. The number was accurate for a rain-soaked Saturday with a conference in town and 3 flights cancelled. The tone was not. 950 voiced as a gate, not a fact. Behind her, the associate at the neighboring terminal typed busily for a couple wearing matching trench coats, all warm courtesy and gentle jokes. A small laugh bubbled from the couple. Pierce didn't laugh. Maya's gaze softened, not because she was hurt, this wasn't new, but because she was cataloging. The hotel didn't hire snobs. But hospitality had blind corners, and bias loved corners the way spiders love attics. She'd been that spider in other people's attics, young and hungry, and asked if she was lost in lobbies like this. Now she owned the rafters, and still the web clung. I appreciate the transparency, Maya said. Do you have a list of amenities for tonight? Anything at the lounge? I heard there might be a new scallop appetizer being tested. That got a flicker. The associate's fingers finally touched the keys. Yes, the lounge is open to registered guests only. The kitchen, she paused again, considering whether to gatekeep the menu, then added, may offer tastings to select patrons. Select how? Maya asked, gentle as a soft towel. Usually VIPs, Pierce said, keeping her gaze steady now, as if to claim an honesty award. Of course, Maya said. And if someone wanted to register tonight? Before the answer came, a pair of guests brushed past, damp and impatient, and asked, is late checkout possible, to no one in particular. The associate at the neighboring terminal called, I've got you, in a warm tone that wrapped around them like a blanket. Maya waited. She imagined the training module she had approved, treat every guest as a VIP because they are. She imagined how many slides it took to say what should have been instinct. Pierce returned to the song of policy. We require a deposit for incidentals. A credit card, of course. Photo ID. If you like, I can print a rate sheet. I don't need a sheet, Maya said. She glanced down at the marble, where a fine trail of tiny footprints fanned out from a child's shoes, then disappeared into the lobby's patterned rug. Rain makes tracks, she thought. So do people. I'll think about it. Thank you. She stepped away from the counter with a small nod, then drifted through the lobby as if distracted, as if she were just another traveler browsing the architecture to pass the time. She wasn't angry. Anger closes doors, observation opens them. She paused by a sculptural arrangement of lilies and eucalyptus, good balance, slightly too much eucalyptus, and glanced toward the concierge stand. The concierge, an older man with an immaculately folded pocket square, was recommending a gallery opening to a couple who looked underdressed for galleries. He did it with warmth, not judgment. So the warmth wasn't gone from the building, it was just unevenly distributed, like heat in a drafty house. Maya sank into a green velvet chair and let her body relax into a posture of indecision. She pulled out her phone, opened the Notes app, and began typing with her thumbs. Door mats, better traction in rain. Host tone at front desk, polite but gatekeeping. Training refresher on, inform versus warn, pricing language. Lounge tasting, how do staff choose? Create non-appearance-based invitation triggers. Flowers, reduce eucalyptus by 20%. Doorman excellent. Preserve. She stopped, looked up, and watched a teen in a soccer jacket chase his orange balloon as it drifted out of the toddler's grip. The boy caught it with a triumphant grin and handed it back. The toddler clapped as if he'd been given a kingdom. The mother mouthed, "Thank you," and the boy shrugged like a hero who preferred anonymity. Little gestures of hospitality everywhere, she thought. The lobby knew the dance even when the desk stepped on a toe. Her assistant, Lila, would arrive in 10 minutes. Maya texted a simple message, "Front desk temp check complete. Prepare introductions. Keep it calm. No exclamation points." Drama was overrated. What she wanted was clarity, the bright, practical light you switch on in a storeroom when it's time to count inventory and see what's actually there. She tucked her phone away and looked up at the chandelier. From this angle, its crystals reflected dozens of tiny inverted lobbies, the same scene repeated from 100 perspectives. That, she decided, was the heart of the matter. A hotel was a prism. The same building, the same music, the same rain outside, but the experience split according to who you were and how you were seen. Her job wasn't to scold a single shard. Her job was to adjust the light. Outside, the rain kept stitching the night together. Inside, the pianist shifted to a tune with a little more lift, as if sensing the lobby needed a breath. Maya stood, smoothed the front of her hoodie, and traced a fingertip along the edge of the check-in counter as she passed it again, one more small sensation to file away. In a few minutes, the room would learn her name. But for now, she was just a traveler, standing in the threshold between how things looked and how they should be. Chapter 2, The First Look. The sound of the rain softened behind the thick glass, replaced by the faint clicking of a keyboard and the steady murmur of conversations around the lobby. From her spot near the velvet chairs, Maya could see the front desk clearly. She had shifted slightly to the side so her angle gave her a full view, not just of the receptionist who had spoken to her, but of the other staff as well. It was a vantage point she had learned years ago, watching people in airports and coffee shops. Position yourself where they forget you're there, and they'll act like you don't exist. That's when you see the truth. The truth, tonight, was simple. There were two different kinds of smiles at the Harborside Royale. The first kind was the one she wanted every guest to receive, warm, unhurried, like a welcome home. The second kind was the one she'd just gotten, tight, polite, more about following procedure than offering hospitality. When Maya had first stepped to the desk, she had noticed something in the receptionist's eyes. Not outright hostility. Not even clear disdain. It was subtler, an assumption. An almost imperceptible narrowing, like the way someone might look at an unfamiliar coin and instinctively wonder if it's counterfeit. The look had lasted less than a second before the professional mask had snapped back into place. But she'd seen it. People always thought their first look didn't count. It counted the most. From across the lobby, she saw the receptionist, Lauren Pierce, if her name tag was to be trusted, finish with the couple in trench coats and turn toward a middle-aged man with a rolling leather bag. Her voice shifted immediately. The stiffness melted. She leaned forward, laughed lightly at something he said. Her hands moved over the keyboard with quick confidence, printing his key cards without a hint of the delay she'd given Maya. Maya tilted her head, studying the transformation. This wasn't a matter of skill, Lauren clearly knew how to be warm. This was a matter of choice. And choices were where culture lived or died. She remembered her grandmother's words, spoken decades earlier in a kitchen that smelled of cornbread and sage. Child, people will tell you who they are in the first 3 seconds. After that, they're just telling you who they want to be. Back then, Maya hadn't understood what her grandmother meant. Now, she could spot those 3 seconds from across a lobby. The man with the leather bag left the desk smiling, keycards in hand. Lauren immediately smoothed her blazer, took a quick sip of water, and then scanned the lobby. Her eyes flicked past Maya without recognition, already filed away in her mind as not a guest, perhaps even not worth noting. Maya let her gaze wander toward the other receptionist, a young man with neatly parted hair and the kind of posture that spoke of formal hospitality school training. He was finishing with a guest in a red raincoat, speaking with steady, respectful attention. The difference wasn't just in tone, it was in the eyes. He looked at the guest, not through them. Maya made a mental note, find out his name later, learn where he trained, and use him as an example in the next leadership meeting. The pianist in the corner shifted into a livelier rhythm, something with a playful sway, the kind of music that seemed to push the rain further away. The lobby's energy responded. Guests moved with a touch more ease, conversations lifted. Maya saw an elderly woman approach the desk, walking slowly with the help of a cane. Lauren stepped forward to greet her. Here, again, the shift happened. Lauren's body language softened. She came out from behind the desk, walked around to the front, and offered her arm to the woman with genuine care. She didn't look rushed, she didn't seem impatient. Maya filed this away, too. Bias wasn't a fixed line, it shifted depending on context, appearance, perceived status. The receptionist who had treated Maya like an inconvenience could, within minutes, be warm and attentive to someone else. That meant the problem wasn't an inability to show kindness, it was an inconsistent filter deciding who deserved it. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Lila, 2 minutes away. Maya stood, stretching slightly as if she were just another guest about to check in. She moved toward the front desk again, passing the floral arrangement. The scent of eucalyptus was sharper here, almost medicinal. She made a silent note to have the florist balance it with more lilies next time. As she approached, Lauren looked up. Recognition flickered, though not the kind that came from remembering a VIP's face. More like the recognition of someone you'd seen loitering a little too long. Back again? Lauren asked, her smile mechanical. Yes, Maya said evenly. I'd like to confirm, are there any smaller rooms available? I don't need a deluxe. Lauren's fingers hovered over the keyboard. We have standard city view rooms at $850. All of our rates include access to the fitness center, pool, and business lounge. May I take a payment card? Maya reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone instead. She tapped the screen once, then said, actually, someone will be joining me in just a moment to help with arrangements. Lauren hesitated. Very well, ma'am. I'll wait for them. The way she said it, slightly clipped, slightly distant, was another tell. Still, Maya kept her expression neutral. A storm doesn't show its lightning before it's ready. The revolving doors spun behind her, and Lila entered, crisp navy suit, umbrella folded neatly, a leather folio tucked under her arm. She walked with purpose, scanning the lobby until her eyes met Maya's. The change in energy was immediate. Lila's presence had a way of rearranging a room without a word. Good evening, Lila said, stepping to Maya's side. She turned to Lauren with a warm but formal smile. I believe you've met Ms. Williams. Lauren's brows knit in polite confusion. I don't believe we've. She stopped mid-sentence as the name landed. Her eyes widened, darting between Maya and Lila. Yes, Lila continued smoothly, this is Ms. Maya Williams, the founder and CEO of Harborside Royale Hotels. She's here for a walkthrough and guest experience review. The surrounding area seemed to freeze. The neighboring receptionist stopped typing. The couple in trench coats, still within earshot, looked over. Even the pianist seemed to lean into a softer chord, as if sensing the shift in the air. Lauren's professional mask returned instantly, but it was thinner now, edges fraying at the corners. "Ms. Williams," she said, her voice just above a whisper. I didn't realize." "Welcome." "Thank you," Maya said simply. "I appreciate your assistance earlier." The pause before assistance was almost imperceptible, but Lauren caught it. Her posture straightened, shoulders drawing back as if bracing for something. Lila placed the folio on the counter and opened it, revealing neatly organized papers and a sleek tablet. "We'll need access to tonight's occupancy reports, the service logs for the past week, and a copy of the current staff training modules. Ms. Williams would also like to reserve a standard room under her name for tonight's evaluation." Lauren nodded quickly, already typing. "Of course. Right away." As she worked, Maya glanced at the lobby once more. The chandelier's light caught on the marble floor, scattering tiny reflections across the space. From here, the hotel looked flawless, exactly as a five-star property should. But she knew better. A perfect lobby could still hide imperfect moments. And tonight, she had just seen one. What mattered now wasn't whether Lauren felt embarrassed. What mattered was what the entire team would learn from this. Consistency was the soul of hospitality. A guest in a hoodie deserved the same warmth as a guest in a tailored suit. And by the end of this visit, Maya intended to make sure no one in the Harborside Royale could claim they didn't know it. Chapter 3, Silent Observation. Maya didn't check into her room immediately. She never did on these visits. Once the reveal was made, once her identity was out, she knew the staff would straighten their spines, quicken their smiles, and polish their service until it gleamed like glass. That was natural. But the real insights came from the moments before the shine was applied. So, she decided to see the hotel as it truly was, on an ordinary night, in the corners where management rarely looked. "Lila," she said softly, moving away from the desk, "let's take the long way around." They began with the lounge. The entrance sat just beyond the main lobby, marked by a frosted glass wall etched with the Harborside Royale crest. As they approached, the low hum of conversation drifted out, business murmurs, the occasional burst of laughter, the soft clink of crystal glassware. Inside, a server in a perfectly pressed vest approached immediately. "Good evening," he said warmly, not recognizing Maya, but speaking as if her arrival was the highlight of his night. "May I offer you a table?" Maya liked him instantly. His smile didn't feel conditional. "We're just looking for now," she replied. "Of course," he said, stepping aside without a flicker of disappointment. "If you need anything, I'll be right over there." He gestured to the bar, then left them alone. Maya's eyes roamed the lounge. The lighting was just right, soft without being dim, flattering without hiding flaws. A couple near the window was sharing a plate of oysters. Another table had the new scallop appetizer she'd read on the board. The presentation was excellent, 3 plump scallops seared to a golden crust, resting on a pale puree, garnished with microgreens. She moved closer, pretending to admire the decor, listening without intruding. The woman at the table was telling her partner, "The chef said this is a trial dish, they're only giving it to select guests tonight." Select, Maya thought, her eyes narrowing slightly. There it was again, that invisible filter. Who decided which guests were worth offering something new? And on what basis? Back in the main lobby, she led Lila toward the elevators. "We'll take a ride up, see the hallways," Maya murmured. The elevator was quick and silent, the kind of ride that made you aware of your own breathing. They stepped out on the 12th floor. The carpet was plush but slightly worn at the edges near the elevator, an easy fix if someone was looking closely. Maya bent briefly, brushing her fingers along the fibers. High traffic area, she said to Lila. Order a replacement before it frays further. They walked the corridor slowly. From behind one door came the muted sound of a television, from another the faint cry of a baby. Room service trays sat outside 2 rooms, one neatly stacked, the other with plates askew, a sauce dish threatening to tip. A housekeeper emerged from a side door, pushing a cart. She saw them and offered a quick nod. Maya stopped. Good evening, Maya said. How's your shift going? The woman smiled tiredly. Busy, ma'am. Full house tonight. Any issues with supplies? Equipment? Maya asked. The housekeeper hesitated, glancing down the hallway. Sometimes the vacuums act up, but we manage. Maya made a note in her phone. Maintenance requests from housekeeping were sometimes delayed, one of those small operational frictions that only surfaced if someone asked directly. They continued up to the spa level. The reception area was serene, scented faintly with lavender. 2 attendants sat behind the counter, speaking quietly. When Maya entered, their conversation stopped abruptly. Good evening, one said, rising. Do you have an appointment? Not tonight, Maya replied. Just curious about the services. The attendant slid a brochure across the counter. The smile was polite but perfunctory. No offer of a tour, no suggestion of booking later. Maya accepted the brochure, thanked her, and left without comment. In the corridor outside, she said to Lila, different from the lounge server, isn't it? Same brand, same building, but the welcome feels like they're doing you a favor. Lila nodded. It's a temperature drop. Exactly. And temperature drops mattered in hospitality. Guests remembered them. They took the service elevator down to the basement level, where the staff cafeteria, storage rooms, and laundry were located. Maya always made it a point to visit the back of house. A happy, well-equipped team was the engine of good service. The cafeteria smelled faintly of coffee and fried food. A handful of staff sat at tables, scrolling on their phones during a break. A man in a chef's jacket was talking animatedly to a dishwasher, using his hands like punctuation. The air felt informal but not hostile. In the laundry room, massive industrial machines churned rhythmically. A young attendant was folding towels with machine-like precision. She looked up briefly, offered a shy smile, then returned to her work. Maya stepped closer, picked up a towel, and tested its texture. Soft, freshly laundered, no stray threads. Excellent, Maya said softly, placing it back on the stack. By the time they returned to the lobby, nearly 45 minutes had passed since leaving the desk. Lauren was still there, her posture a little stiffer now, eyes occasionally darting toward Maya and Lila. Maya didn't stop. She walked straight toward the main entrance, pausing just before the doors. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist, softening the city lights into a hazy glow. She turned back to Lila. Well? Lila asked quietly. Uneven, Maya said. Some staff are flawless, warm, attentive, genuine. Others, she let the sentence trail off. It's not about skill. It's about who they choose to give the best version of themselves to. That's the problem. And the solution? Lila asked. Maya's eyes swept the lobby one last time. We start tomorrow. Every department, every role. Consistency training. No guest should feel like they're auditioning for good service. She stepped outside, the mist beating gently on her hoodie. Tomorrow would be the formal meeting with management, the presentation of notes, the training mandate. But tonight, she had seen the truth she came for. And as she walked toward the waiting car, Maya felt the quiet satisfaction of a woman who knew that the next time she came through those doors, hoodie or not, every single person inside would see her the same way they should see everyone else, as a guest worthy of welcome. Chapter 4, The Reveal. Morning at the Harborside Royale arrived quietly, as it always did. The lobby's polished marble gleamed under the soft gold of early light. Guests drifted through in various states of wakefulness, some pulling carry-ons toward the exit, others lingering over cappuccinos at the cafe. For most, it was just another day. For the staff, though, there was a summons. At precisely 9 a.m., the general manager, Victor Chen, stood near the concierge desk, greeting employees as they filtered in. His voice carried that careful balance of urgency and calm, the tone of someone who had called more meetings than he could count. But even he didn't know the full reason for this one. He had received the instruction directly from Lila, mandatory meeting. All available staff. CEO will attend. By 9:10, the conference room off the main lobby was filled. Housekeeping supervisors, front desk agents, lounge servers, spa attendants, even a couple of chefs still in their white coats. The air buzzed with low speculation. Maya entered without ceremony. No designer suit, no corporate armor. She wore a simple black blouse and trousers, more polished than last night's hoodie, but still understated. Lila followed, tablet in hand. Victor moved forward to greet her, his posture crisp. "Ms. Williams," he said warmly, "welcome back. We're honored to have you here." Maya returned the handshake. "Thank you, Victor. Let's get started." She stepped to the front of the room. The chatter quieted instantly. Even those who didn't recognize her face knew her name. Maya Williams. Founder. CEO. The reason their paychecks cleared. "I came here last night without announcing myself," she began, her voice calm, unhurried. "I checked in, not as the CEO, not as a VIP, but as an ordinary guest. I wanted to see how we treat people when we think no one is watching." A few glances darted around the room. Lauren, seated near the back, kept her eyes fixed on the table in front of her. "What I found," Maya continued, "was a mix of excellence and inconsistency. Some of you made me feel like I was the most important person in the building, without knowing who I was. Others," she let her eyes move slowly across the room, "made me feel like I didn't belong." The silence thickened. "I'm not here to single anyone out in shame," Maya said, her tone even. "But I am here to tell you this, that kind of inconsistency is unacceptable in a Harborside Royale property. Our brand promise is not, treat important guests well. It is, every guest is important." Lila tapped her tablet, and the screen behind Maya lit up with a slide, "Consistency is hospitality." Maya gestured toward it. "Guests remember two things, the very best moment they had with us, and the very worst. And you never know which moment you're giving them. A smile. A tone of voice. The decision to offer, or not offer, something. These are not small details. These are the brand." She let that sink in for a beat before continuing. "Last night, I watched some of you go out of your way for certain guests, offering them things not on the menu, making them feel special. I also watched others decide, in an instant, that a guest didn't deserve that same treatment. Sometimes based on their clothes. Sometimes on their face. Sometimes. I couldn't tell why at all." Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "That is not hospitality. That is bias. And whether it's conscious or unconscious, it ends here." A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. Some employees shifted in their chairs, others stared straight ahead. Maya stepped away from the podium and closer to the group, lowering her voice so it drew people in. The truth is, you don't know who's standing in front of you. Last night, I was wearing jeans and a hoodie. Some of you dismissed me without a second thought. But I could have been anyone, a travel blogger with 1 million followers, a corporate group's event planner, a family deciding where to host a reunion. Or I could have been exactly who I am. The woman who signs your paychecks and decides the future of this hotel. A few heads dropped slightly. Even Lauren's hands tightened on the edge of her chair. Maya straightened again. So here's what we're going to do. Starting today, every department will go through intensive consistency training. Not just for the next week, not just until I leave town, permanently. Every new hire will be trained in it. And I will be back, unannounced, to see how well we've learned. Lila handed Victor a printed schedule. Department heads, she said, you'll receive your session times today. Attendance is mandatory. No exceptions. Maya looked across the room once more. I know most of you came into hospitality because you like people. Because you want to create experiences that last. And I know you're capable of that, because I saw it last night. But liking people isn't enough. We have to treat all people like they matter, every single time. Her gaze softened again. This is not about punishment. This is about pride. If our service is only good when we think someone is important, then we've already failed. But if it's good for everyone, every time, then we're not just a 5-star hotel. We're unforgettable. She paused. The only sound in the room was the faint hum of the air conditioning. Any questions? She asked finally. No one spoke. Then we're done here, Maya said. I'll see you on the floor. She left the conference room without a dramatic flourish, just the quiet authority of someone who knew her words would echo long after she was gone. In the lobby, as she passed the front desk, Lauren stood behind the counter. Their eyes met. Ms. Williams, Lauren said, her voice steadier than Maya expected, I understand. I hope so, Maya replied. Because the next guest you meet could change your life. Treat them that way. Then she walked toward the elevator, leaving behind a staff who now understood that the real test of hospitality wasn't in the grandeur of the lobby or the sparkle of the chandelier. It was in the first look. Chapter 5, The First Shift. By midday, the Harborside Royale felt different. Not completely transformed, no culture changes overnight, but the undercurrent in the air had shifted, as if everyone was holding their posture a little straighter, their smiles a little longer. Maya didn't announce that she'd be walking the property again. She simply did what she always did after a big meeting. She disappeared into the crowd, blending into the background to watch how people behaved when they thought she was just another guest passing through. She started in the lobby. The doorman, who had been gracious the night before, greeted a young couple stepping out of a taxi. Their luggage was scuffed, their jackets still damp from the mist outside. Maya noted the way he welcomed them with the same tone he had used for the black SUV arrivals earlier, no hint of ranking them by appearance. Welcome to the Harborside Royale, he said warmly. You're just in time, our lounge has fresh pastries coming out. Good, Maya thought. That was exactly the kind of inclusive detail she wanted. Inside, the front desk was busier than the night before. Lauren stood at one station, speaking with a man in paint-splattered work clothes. Her voice was clear, professional, and warm. She smiled as she explained the check-in process, then leaned slightly forward as if to close the distance between them. When the guest hesitated over the rate, Maya braced herself for the old clipped tone to surface. Instead, Lauren kept her voice even. I understand. If you'd like, I can recommend some nearby options within your budget. Or, if you choose to stay, I'll make sure you're comfortable here. The man smiled, genuinely smiled, and handed over his card. It was a small moment, but it mattered. A day ago, Maya was certain Lauren would have dismissed him quickly, just as she had with her. Now, Lauren was practicing something she hadn't the night before, respect without assumption. Maya didn't linger to be noticed. She moved toward the lounge. The same server from the night before spotted her and greeted her with the same warm smile. Welcome back. Would you like to try the scallop appetizer today? We're offering it to all our guests so we can gather feedback. All our guests. That was a phrase she hadn't heard yesterday. Yes, Maya said, sliding into a corner table. She ordered coffee as well, watching the room. A family with 2 small children was seated near the window. The server stopped by their table, crouching to eye level with the kids as he explained the menu in simple, cheerful terms. Across the room, a solo traveler in a hoodie was served the scallops without hesitation. The scallops arrived at her table, still perfect in presentation, still golden at the edges, but now no one had to be select to try them. After leaving the lounge, Maya decided to check the spa. She stepped through the lavender-scented entrance. The same attendant from the night before greeted her, but this time her smile reached her eyes. Welcome, she said. Would you like a quick tour of the facilities? Yes, Maya replied, suppressing her surprise. The attendant led her through the serene hallways, pointing out treatment rooms, the hydrotherapy pool, and the relaxation lounge. She offered tea at the end of the tour, no pressure to book, just an invitation to enjoy the space. This was the kind of shift Maya knew could happen when people understood that every interaction might be the most important one of their day. She headed toward the elevators, but halfway there, she spotted something unusual. The young housekeeper she'd met last night, who had mentioned the faulty vacuums, was speaking with a maintenance worker near a supply closet. It's fixed already? She asked, eyes widening. Yes, the maintenance worker said, grinning. Priority order for management this morning. All vacuums serviced. Maya smiled inwardly. That wasn't just a service fix, it was a sign her words from the meeting had traveled beyond the front desk. Problems were being addressed because someone had realized they reflected on every guest experience. In the afternoon, Maya took a seat in the lobby to write emails. She wasn't hiding her presence, but she wasn't making herself obvious either. What she saw around her confirmed her instincts. The temperature drops from the night before were fewer. Guests in casual clothes were greeted the same as those in tailored suits. Questions were met with patience, not thinly veiled irritation. Was it perfect? No. There was still a spa attendant who seemed distracted while checking someone in, still a bellhop who whisked away quickly without offering further assistance. But those were small things, habits that would take more than a day to reshape. Near 5 p.m., Victor approached her. I wanted to thank you for this morning's talk, he said quietly. I've been in this business 20 years, and I've never seen such an immediate shift in mood. Maya closed her laptop. That's the thing about hospitality, it's not hard to be good at it. You just have to decide to be. Victor smiled faintly. Some of them were nervous about being called out. They should be, Maya said. Not because of me, but because every guest deserves their best. If they can't give it, they shouldn't be here. Victor nodded, understanding. We'll keep the momentum going. I'll personally oversee the first round of training next week. Good, Maya said. She gathered her things and stood. Tomorrow, I'm checking out. But I'll be back, without notice. If the service is the same then, you'll know we've succeeded. As she headed toward her room for the evening, she passed Lauren again at the desk. Their eyes met briefly. This time, there was no trace of defensiveness, just a quiet acknowledgement, almost gratitude. For the first time since arriving, Maya thought, maybe they've started to get it. But she knew the real test would come later, when no one remembered the meeting, and no one thought the CEO might walk in. That was when she'd know whether this shift was a ripple, or the start of a tide. Chapter 6, The Return. 3 weeks later, the Harborside Royale sat under a bright spring sky, its brass canopy shining in the afternoon sun. Tourists bustled along the waterfront. Inside, the hotel pulsed with a comfortable rhythm, guests coming and going, staff moving with practiced efficiency. At least, that was how it looked from the outside. Maya intended to find out if it felt the same on the inside. She arrived without fanfare. No car service this time, no assistant trailing behind. Just her, a crossbody bag, a light denim jacket, and a well-worn travel backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked less like a CEO and more like someone in town for a budget weekend getaway. The doorman greeted her warmly, just as before. "Welcome to the Harborside Royale. How's your day going?" "Great so far," Maya said with a smile. It was a good start. She stepped into the lobby and let her eyes wander, deliberately taking her time before heading toward the front desk. She wanted to see if anyone noticed her, not because she was Maya Williams, CEO, but because she was a person walking through their space. The chandelier still sparkled overhead. The floral arrangement was fresh, lilies balanced perfectly against greenery. The lounge hummed with late-afternoon conversation, a mix of guests in crisp business attire and travelers in jeans and sneakers. At the desk, there were 3 associates on duty. None of them were Lauren. The nearest receptionist, a young man with a neat fade haircut and a badge reading "Sing," looked up as soon as she approached. His expression didn't flicker, the welcome in his eyes felt instant and uncalculated. "Good afternoon," he said. "Welcome to the Harborside Royale. Are you checking in?" "Yes, just for one night," Maya replied. "Wonderful," he said, already moving into the booking process. "We have a variety of rooms available, city view, harbor view, and executive suites. Would you like me to go over the rates and amenities?" "Sure," Maya said, watching him carefully. He explained each option clearly, without rushing, and without the subtle gatekeeping tone she'd heard from Lauren weeks earlier. When he mentioned the price of the harbor view, his voice stayed matter-of-fact, not as a test but as information. "That one sounds nice," Maya said. "Great choice," he said. "We also have complimentary hors d'oeuvres in the lounge this evening, and the chef is testing a new seasonal appetizer. All guests are welcome to try it." Maya felt a flicker of satisfaction. All guests. The phrase was sticking. She handed over a card. While Singh processed the check-in, she glanced around the lobby again. A bellhop was escorting an older couple toward the elevators, chatting easily about local restaurants. A server from the lounge stopped to help a guest pick up a dropped scarf. The energy felt level. No one was deciding who deserved what. Room key in hand, Maya decided to test another department. She headed up to the spa. The same lavender scent greeted her. This time, the attendant behind the counter smiled broadly before she even reached the desk. "Good afternoon. Welcome back to our spa," she said. "Would you like a quick look at our facilities? Even if you're not booking today, you're welcome to enjoy our relaxation lounge." Maya accepted the tour. The attendant offered her a cup of chamomile tea at the end, without hesitation, without scanning her clothes first. It was a small thing, but it was exactly the kind of detail that separated good service from great. She wandered the property for the next hour, stopping in the cafe for coffee, chatting briefly with a housekeeper in the hallway, watching interactions in the lounge. Each encounter carried the same thread, a willingness to engage, to welcome, to treat her as someone worth serving. Eventually, she made her way to the manager's office. Victor was at his desk, scanning a stack of reports. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Maya," he said, standing quickly. "You're here." "I told you I'd be back," she replied, stepping inside. "Unannounced, of course." Victor smiled, a little nervously. "And, how did we do?" Maya set her bag down and leaned against the chair opposite his desk. "Better. A lot better. The tone is consistent now. No one made me feel like I had to prove I belonged here. That's progress." Victor exhaled. "We've been drilling it into the culture. Every meeting, every shift change, every guest is important. I think it's starting to stick." "It is," Maya agreed. "But don't let it slide. The moment people think they're only being tested when I'm here, we lose everything we've gained." "Understood," Victor said. She picked up her bag again. "I'll check out tomorrow morning. But I'll be back again, maybe in another 3 weeks, maybe in 6 months. And when I do, I expect it to feel exactly like today." Victor nodded firmly. "You have my word." Maya smiled faintly. "Good. Because the goal isn't to impress me. It's to make every guest walk out thinking, I want to come back." She left his office, the sound of the lobby greeting her again. Outside the windows, the harbor glittered in the late afternoon sun. Inside, the staff moved like a team that understood their purpose, not to serve important people, but to make people feel important. For Maya, that was the real win. And it was worth every unannounced visit to get there. Chapter 7, The Stage. 2 months later, Maya stood behind a black velvet curtain, waiting for her name to be called. The ballroom on the other side was filled with over 800 people, hotel executives, hospitality trainers, luxury brand managers, gathered for the International Hospitality Summit. She'd been invited as the keynote speaker, but she hadn't given them a topic in advance. That was deliberate. She wanted to see their faces when they heard it. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. "Please welcome to the stage Maya Williams, CEO and founder of Harborside Royale Hotels." Applause swelled as she stepped out under the spotlights. She didn't carry notes. Instead, she paused at the center of the stage, letting the room settle before she began. "I want to tell you a story," she said simply. She walked slowly, hands loosely clasped. "A few months ago, I visited one of my hotels. I didn't arrive in a car service, didn't wear a suit, didn't announce who I was. I came in wearing jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie." Some people in the audience chuckled, imagining it. "And here's what happened," she continued. "Some of the staff treated me beautifully. Others looked at me and decided, based on nothing but clothes and first impressions, that I didn't belong." A murmur moved through the room. She could see heads nodding, a few eyes narrowed in recognition. "I wasn't there to catch anyone doing something wrong," Maya said. "I was there to see the truth. And the truth is this: hospitality isn't about chandeliers and marble floors. It's about how you make someone feel when they're standing in front of you. And that feeling starts in the first 3 seconds." She let the words hang in the air, watching the weight of them land. In those 3 seconds, she went on, "You're telling them, you matter here, or you're telling them, I've already decided what you're worth. And I can promise you this, guests remember which one they heard." She walked off stage as the lights dimmed, and the host returned to thank her. Back in the green room, Lila was waiting with a glass of water. "They loved it," she said. "I think you just inspired about 800 secret visits." "Good," Maya replied, taking a sip. "That's how it should start." Her phone buzzed on the table. A message from Victor at the Harborside Royale. New mystery guest report came in, score 98 out of 100. Teams keeping the standard. Maya smiled to herself. The work was never done, but moments like this meant it was working. She slipped her phone back into her bag, already thinking about her next unannounced arrival, somewhere, sometime, where the real first look would tell her everything she needed to know. Maya told them how she'd revealed her identity the next morning, how she'd addressed the entire staff without calling names, and how she'd made consistency training a non-negotiable part of the brand. She didn't dwell on the embarrassment of the moment. This wasn't a revenge tale. It was a lesson. "I could have fired people on the spot," she said. "But that doesn't change culture. Culture changes when you teach people to see differently. When you make it impossible for them to go back to seeing the way they did before." The room was silent now, leaning in. "I went back 3 weeks later," Maya continued, "and the difference was real. Not perfect yet, but real. The bias in the air had thinned. Every guest, whether in a suit or in sweatpants, was welcomed as if they were the reason the hotel existed. Which, by the way, they are." She took a few steps closer to the edge of the stage. "I'm telling you this because too many leaders in hospitality focus on reacting, fixing problems only after a bad review, a lost guest, a public complaint. That's not leadership. Leadership is walking through your own lobby the way a guest would. It's sitting in the back row of your own business and asking, 'Would I come back?'" She could see pens moving across notebooks, the glow of tablets as people typed. "Here's my challenge to you," she said, her voice tightening with conviction. "In the next month, walk into your own business anonymously. No title, no name tag, no hint of who you are. Experience it from the outside. And then, fix what you feel, not just what you see." The applause started slowly, then grew until the room was on its feet. She stayed still for a moment, letting the sound wash over her, not because she needed the praise, but because she could feel the idea landing where it needed to. When the noise faded, she gave them a final line. "Because the day your guests have to earn your best service is the day you've already lost them." Chapter 8, The Last Test. 6 months later, the city was deep in autumn. A crisp wind carried the scent of roasted chestnuts from street vendors, and the trees along the waterfront blazed with gold and crimson. The Harborside Royale looked as grand as ever beneath the fading afternoon light, its brass canopy catching glints of the sinking sun. Maya arrived on foot this time, no luggage, just a coffee in hand and a scarf looped casually around her neck. She had been in town for another meeting and decided, on instinct, to make one final unannounced visit. This wasn't planned. There had been no warning to management, no quiet heads-up to Victor. The doorman spotted her from half a block away. "Good evening, welcome to the Royale," he called, stepping forward to open the door. His tone was warm and unforced, like greeting an old friend. Inside, the lobby was alive but not frantic. The chandelier gleamed above, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and clove. Behind the desk, 2 associates worked side by side. One of them, she noticed, was Lauren. Maya approached without hesitation. Lauren looked up, and here was the real test. Her eyes lit with recognition, but it wasn't the tense, guarded look of someone remembering a mistake. It was simply a welcome, layered with genuine respect. "Good evening," Lauren said warmly. "It's nice to see you again. How can we help you tonight?" Maya smiled faintly. "I'm just here to have a coffee in the lounge, if that's all right." "Of course," Lauren replied. "The chef has just put out fresh pumpkin tartlets. Please, enjoy one while they're still warm." It was perfect. No questions about why Maya was there, no sense of filtering her worth through what she wore or carried. Just hospitality, simple and true. In the lounge, the same balance held. A server offered her a seat without scanning her outfit. A family in jeans was treated with the same grace as a couple in designer coats. At the next table, a solo traveler in hiking boots was offered the seasonal appetizer with the same enthusiasm Maya had been given. She lingered for an hour, quietly observing. Every guest who came through the doors was met with eye contact, a smile, and the same level of care. No temperature drops. No invisible dividing lines. When she finally rose to leave, she passed the front desk again. Lauren caught her eye and said simply, "Thank you." Maya nodded. "No, thank you." Outside, the city lights shimmered against the darkening harbor. She felt no need for a grand announcement, no speech to mark the moment. The test had been passed, not because of her presence, but because the culture had shifted into habit. For Maya, that was the point all along. A great hotel didn't change when the CEO walked in, it stayed great because anyone could walk in and feel at home. And as she disappeared into the crowd, scarf trailing in the wind, she knew she could leave the Harborside Royale for months, even years, and still trust that the first look every guest received would be the right one.